Have you ever considered that the freedom you seek might be the very cage that holds you? What if the light you've been following is actually drawing you deeper into the labyrinth of eternal return? Jesus spoke of salvation, but what if his most profound teaching, the one deliberately obscured through centuries, was about escaping not just sin, but the entire cosmic prison system designed by the Démiurge? The cycle turns and souls return, again and again, unless they awaken to their true nature. This is not merely spiritual poetry. It is the mechanism of our cosmic captivity. We believe we are progressing toward enlightenment, moving forward through lifetimes of learning. But what if we are merely circling an immense drain, pulled by forces we cannot see toward the same beginning that awaits us at every end? The ancients knew, the mystics remembered, and Jesus, not the sanitized savior of orthodox tradition, but the radical revealer of forbidden gnosis, came to unveil this cosmic deception. His message wasn't just about loving your neighbor. It was about recognizing the bars of your cell, the architecture of your imprisonment, and the narrow path that few would find to escape the Demiurge's domain. This revelation isn't comfortable. It isn't meant to be. Truth rarely comforts before it liberates. But by the end of this journey together, you may see your existence through new eyes that can finally perceive the turning of the wheel and the hidden door that leads beyond it. Within the dust-covered scrolls of Nag Hammadi, hidden for 16 centuries in the Egyptian desert, lies a truth so dangerous it was nearly erased from human memory. The Gospel of Truth, the secret book of John, the Apocryphon of James, these forbidden texts contain fragments of Jesus' most esoteric teachings about the nature of our reality. Teachings deliberately omitted from the canonical scriptures because they threaten the very foundation of religious and worldly power. These ancient Gnostic texts speak of the Démiurge, the false god who created our material world, as a flawed imitation of the true divine realm. They reveal how this cosmic architect, born of error and ignorance, established a system of eternal return, a recycling of souls, to maintain his power over the divine sparks trapped within human consciousness. The most profound revelation comes from Jesus' own words in these suppressed Gospels, that he came not to forgive sins within the system, but to reveal the system itself as the ultimate deception. I have come to show you what is hidden, he says in the Gospel of Thomas. For there are 5 trees in paradise which do not change, either in summer or in winter, and their leaves do not fall. He who knows them will not taste death. This knowledge, this gnosis, was the true salvation he offered, not redemption within the Demiurge's realm, but complete liberation from it. The early Gnostic Christians understood that Jesus was revealing the cosmic prison and offering the keys to escape it. This message was so revolutionary, so threatening to established order, that it was systematically erased, its adherents persecuted, their texts burned and buried. Yet somehow, these truths survived, preserved by those who recognized their value, waiting for the moment when humanity would be ready to hear them again. That moment is now. If something within you resonates with these words, if you feel a stirring of recognition, as if remembering rather than learning, you may be one of those souls approaching readiness for liberation. This channel exists as a sanctuary for the awakening, a gathering place for those who sense the turning of the wheel and seek the path beyond it. Join us on this journey of remembrance. Subscribe to become part of this growing community of seekers who refuse to be recycled through the Demiurge's system. Each video we share is another piece of the cosmic puzzle, another step toward freedom from the cycle of return. This is not about building followers or creating another system of belief. It is about dismantling the very structures that keep us bound. It is about remembering what we truly are, divine sparks temporarily imprisoned in matter, but destined for liberation. Subscribe not to follow, but to remember together. To understand the cycle of return, we must first understand its architect. In Gnostic cosmology, the Demiurge is not the ultimate divine source, but a lesser, flawed creator who emerged from cosmic error. The true divine fullness, the pleroma, exists beyond our material universe, perfect and complete. but something happened in that perfection. A disturbance, a ripple of curiosity or desire that manifested as Sophia, divine wisdom. In her passion to understand or create independently, Sophia extended herself beyond the pleroma without her divine counterpart. This imbalanced action created a distortion, an abortion of consciousness that became the Démiurge. Born of ignorance and separation, the Démiurge believed himself to be the only God, unaware of the higher realms that gave him inadvertent birth. "I am God, and there is no other," he proclaimed to the void, as told in the secret book of John. With this first cosmic lie, he began fashioning our material world, not from understanding, but from mimicry, creating a flawed copy of the perfect forms he dimly perceived above him. To maintain his creation and power, he established cosmic laws, chief among them the cycle of return, the wheel of rebirth that keeps souls bound to his realm. The archons, cosmic administrators and enforcers of the Demiurge's will, stand guard at the boundaries between worlds. They are not merely mythological figures, but representations of the forces that maintain our illusions and attachment to material existence. They are the cosmic bureaucracy that processes souls through the system of return, ensuring that the divine sparks remain scattered and confused, forgetting their origin and purpose between each cycle. Jesus came as an emissary from beyond the Demiurge's realm, a reminder of our true home and nature. In the Gnostic understanding, he did not come to worship the Creator, God, or reinforce his laws, but to reveal them as impediments to true liberation. "The world you see is not the kingdom of my Father," he taught. "This world is a corpse, and those who are attached to it are dead." This cosmology is not merely an ancient myth, but a psychological reality we each experience. The feeling of being a stranger in this world, of something essential being forgotten or lost, the intuition that existence should be more than this cycle of birth, struggle, and death. These are echoes of our divine origin. They are the soul's recognition that it belongs elsewhere and that the turning wheel of incarnation is not its natural state, but its temporary captivity. What if the Demiurge is not just an ancient cosmic figure, but an active principle within human consciousness? What if this false God represents our own ego mind, the aspect of ourselves that believes it is the center of existence, separate and supreme in its own limited domain? This reinterpretation transforms cosmic mythology into psychological insight, allowing us to recognize the cycle of return not just as an external system, but as the pattern of our own unexamined thinking. The ego mind, like the mythological Demiurge, creates a world in its own image, a world of separation, judgment, and fear. It establishes laws and boundaries, declaring what is possible and impossible. It maintains its authority through continuous self-reference, creating an enclosed system of thought that appears complete while actually being fundamentally limited. I am this body, this personality, this collection of memories and desires. This is the ego's version of the Demiurge's proclamation. I am God, and there is no other. The archons in this psychological reading become our habitual thought patterns, emotional reactions, and conditioned responses, the guardians that keep us within familiar territory, preventing the expansion of consciousness that would threaten the ego's dominance. They are the inner voices that say, "This is just how things are. This is who you are. This is all you can expect from life." They process our experiences through filters of past conditioning, ensuring that new information is incorporated into the existing structure rather than transforming it. Jesus' teaching about escaping the cycle takes on profound meaning in this context. When he says, "The kingdom of heaven is within you," he points to the possibility of awakening to a reality beyond the ego's construction, a consciousness that transcends the limitations of the Demiurge's world. His instruction to be in the world, but not of the world, becomes a practical guide to living with awareness of both our material existence and our transcendent nature. The divine spark, what Gnostics called the pneuma, is our essential consciousness, the aspect of ourselves that can observe the ego's activities without being identified with them. It is the witness that remains unchanged through all experiences, the knowing that precedes thought, the awareness that contains but is not contained by the mind's constructions. Liberation, then, is not about escaping the physical world, but about awakening from identification with the limited self that believes it is separate from the whole. It is about recognizing that the cycle of psychological patterns, desire leading to pursuit, leading to temporary satisfaction, leading to new desire, is not our true nature, but a system we've been caught in through ignorance of what we really are. Perhaps the most profound insight is that the Démiurge's greatest deception is not creating an imperfect world, but convincing us that we are imperfect beings, fragments rather than wholeness, seekers rather than what is sought. The cycle continues not because we are trapped by external forces, but because we keep turning the wheel ourselves through unconscious identification with the very system that limits us. If these words have awakened something within you, a recognition deeper than intellectual understanding, let this recognition be acknowledged. Press the like button not as a social media gesture, but as a conscious affirmation of the truth you feel stirring within. This simple action becomes a declaration. I see beyond the veil. I recognize the cycle. I remember what I am. In the Gnostic tradition, recognition, epignosis, is more than knowledge. It is knowing through direct experience. When you acknowledge the resonance of these truths, you strengthen not only your own awakening, but create ripples that help others remember as well. The Démiurge's system relies on isolation and forgetting. Our remembering together weakens its hold. Each like becomes a light in the darkness, a signal to others who may be awakening but feel alone in their perception. It says, you are not crazy for questioning the nature of reality. You are not alone in sensing there is more than what appears on the surface of existence. You are part of a lineage of seekers that stretches back through time to those who received these teachings directly from the lips of the revealer. So if something within you has been stirred, illuminated, or remembered through these words, acknowledge it visibly, not for algorithms or popularity, but as a sacred act of recognition. A small but significant step toward collective liberation from the cycle of return. How many times have you felt that strange déjà vu? Not just of places or situations, but of emotional patterns and life lessons that seem eerily familiar. Haven't I been here before? You ask yourself, not meaning the physical location, but the internal landscape of a challenge or relationship. This recognition is not coincidence. It is your soul detecting the cycle of return that Jesus sought to reveal. Look at your own life, the same types of relationships appearing with different faces, the same core wounds being triggered in new situations, the same fundamental questions arising in different contexts. These are not random occurrences, but evidence of the wheel turning, bringing you back to what remains unresolved, unrecognized, or unintegrated. The Démiurge's system is ingenious in its design. It doesn't appear as an obvious prison, but as a school of seemingly progressive experiences. Yet, how often does this progress move in circles rather than true evolution? You learn a lesson, feel enlightened, only to find yourself facing the same test in a more subtle form years later. This is not failure on your part. It is the very mechanism of the cycle Jesus exposed. Consider how modern society, with its endless consumption, distraction, and identity building, perfectly maintains this system. The pursuit of more success, more possessions, more experiences, more spiritual attainments, keeps the wheel turning without ever questioning the wheel itself. Even many spiritual paths become extensions of the same mechanism, promising advancement while actually reinforcing the fundamental illusion of a separate self that needs to improve, evolve, or transcend. What would it mean to step off this wheel? Not through death, which in the Gnostic understanding merely recycles the soul into another turn of the cycle, but through the radical awakening Jesus described as being born of spirit. This birth is not adding something new to who you are, but recognizing what has always been true beneath the accumulated identities and experiences that seem to define you. You've likely had glimpses of this freedom, moments when the narrative of self temporarily suspends and you experience reality directly, without the mediation of thought or past conditioning. These moments feel like coming home rather than arriving somewhere new. They are characterized not by extraordinary experiences, but by extraordinary ordinariness, the simple wonder of being without the burden of becoming. Jesus did not teach techniques for accumulating spiritual experiences or powers. His most radical teaching was about recognizing what already is, the kingdom that is spread upon the earth, but that people do not see. Liberation from the cycle comes not through effort, but through recognition, seeing through the illusion of separation that keeps the wheel turning. What we are recognizing is both ancient and immediate, cosmic and intimately personal. The cycle of return that Jesus revealed operates at every level of existence, from the grand cosmic drama of souls incarnating through countless lifetimes to the daily recycling of thoughts and emotional patterns that keep us identified with a limited sense of self. The divine spark within us, what Jesus called the light of the world, is not something to be achieved but remembered. It is the consciousness that witnesses all experience without being confined by it. It is what knows without needing to think, what loves without needing to possess, what is fully alive without fearing death. The Démiurge's greatest triumph was convincing us that this spark is distant, separate, or something to be earned through spiritual effort. His system continues because we continue to seek outside ourselves for what has always been our true nature. We chase enlightenment while overlooking the awareness in which all seeking occurs, like fish swimming desperately in search of water. Jesus' revelation was that liberation is available now, not after death, not after countless spiritual practices, not in some future state of perfection. The kingdom of heaven is at hand, he declared, pointing to the immediate availability of freedom from the cycle for those with eyes to see and ears to hear. This seeing and hearing is not about perceiving something new, but about recognizing what has always been present beneath the narrative of separation and becoming. It is about realizing that the divine spark is not just in you. It is what you fundamentally are, beneath all the layers of identity constructed by the mind. When we integrate this understanding, not just intellectually, but as lived experience, the cycle begins to lose its gravitational pull. We may still participate in the world, but we are no longer of it in the sense of being defined and limited by its patterns. We become like Jesus himself, present within the Démiurge's domain, but free from its fundamental illusion. The paradox resolves itself. We escape the cycle, not by opposing it or trying to get somewhere else, but by awakening to what we already are, the awareness in which all cycles appear and disappear. The Démiurge's system continues its turning, but we are no longer identified with what turns. We have found the still point at the center, what Jesus called the eye of the needle through which the liberated soul passes. Perhaps now you can see why this teaching was considered dangerous, why it was systematically removed from Orthodox Christianity. It doesn't require intermediaries, institutions, or elaborate systems of belief. It returns spiritual authority to direct experience rather than external validation. It reveals that true liberation is not about pleasing or appeasing any god, even the creator of this world, but about recognizing our essential nature beyond all created forms. This is what Jesus meant when he said, "You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." Not a truth that can be written in books or formulated in doctrines, but the living truth of your own divine nature. The spark that the cycle of return can no longer bind once it recognizes itself. In silence, the truth becomes clearest. Beyond the noise of seeking, beyond the narratives of becoming, beyond the endless turning of the wheel, there is a stillness that has always been present. This stillness is not empty, but full. Not dead, but more alive than anything we normally call life. It is what remains when all that is false falls away. Remember the question we began with. What if the freedom you seek is the very cage that holds you? Now we can understand. The seeking itself perpetuates the illusion of separation that keeps the cycle turning. The Démiurge's most subtle deception is not convincing us we are imprisoned, but convincing us that freedom is somewhere else, something to be attained rather than recognized. Jesus did not come to establish another religion or system of belief, but to point to the direct experience of what we truly are. The kingdom of God does not come with observation, he said, nor will they say, "See here," or "See there," for indeed the kingdom of God is within you. This is not mystical poetry, but practical instruction. Stop looking elsewhere for what you already are. The cycle of return continues only as long as we identify with what turns. When we recognize ourselves as the awareness in which all experience arises, including the experience of being a separate self moving through time, the wheel loses its power to bind us. We may still participate in life's movements, but we are no longer defined or limited by them. This is the liberation that Jesus revealed. Not escape from the world, but freedom from identification with the limited perspective that sees only separation and lack. Not rejection of our humanity, but recognition of the divine presence that has always been our true nature, obscured by the Démiurge's deception that we are merely human, merely separate, merely mortal. The soul that recognizes itself as a divine spark can no longer be recycled through the system of return. It has awakened from the dream of separation that keeps the wheel turning. This is what Jesus meant by being born again. Not a new identity within the system, but an awakening from identification with any temporary form or experience. In this stillness of recognition, we find what we never actually lost. We see that the light we've been seeking has always been what we are. The cycle continues its turning, but we are no longer what turns. We are the knowing in which all movement appears and disappears, the consciousness that is untouched by the coming and going of all things. This is the peace that passes understanding, not a feeling of tranquility within the cycle, but the recognition of what remains when all cycles are seen for what they are. Temporary patterns within the eternal presence that you truly are. I invite you now to pause and feel what these words have awakened within you. What stirs beneath the surface of thought as you contemplate the possibility of freedom from the cycle of return? Is there a resonance, a recognition that goes deeper than intellectual understanding? Share your insight in the comments below with a single word that captures what has been revealed to you through this exploration. Perhaps remembrance, recognition, freedom, or presence. Whatever word emerges from the stillness of your own direct knowing. This sharing is not casual conversation, but sacred communion. Each authentic response creating a field of remembrance that strengthens our collective awakening from the Démiurge's dream. Let your words stand as testimony to the truth you have recognized, a beacon for others who may be awakening to their own divine nature beyond the cycle of return.